Gerber, if I may hand the invoices to you as well as to my learned colleagues. General, I have handed you invoices. Are these the invoices that you're referring to?
Yes.
My Lord, previously we had ended on 13.11. If we may move perhaps to Exhibit 14.1 and 2, that we do not get everything confused. If we may look the dates upon which both indicate, the one indicates the 13th of December and the second one the 14th of December. If we may have invoice number DSI 34676243 with the date of 14 December 2021 being indicated as 14.1. And then the second invoice, which then indicates the DSI 34676186 with date 13 of December, that being 14.2.
That is the one of 13.
Indeed so, my Lord. If that, I understand with the dates, however, the relevance will be shown as to why, even though it is a 13th, that is 14.2 and not 14.1. Thank you, my Lord. If we have a look at these particular documents, and if we look at Exhibit 14.1, which would indicated dated the 14th of December 2021. General Gerber, if you'll look, there is a description as to what this indicates. Can you read the description into record, please?
It says administration fee, and then it's got a quantity 1, and then the UN under unit, price 200.4 zeros, and net price 200.2 zeros. Below that, urgent typing, quantity 82, and it's got under unit, it's got PG, which I assume is pages, and then it says unit price 48.04 zeros, and the amount is indicated as 3,936 Rand 00. Below that, it then says Morowadi Cholota interview by Hawks and FBI, Victor at vnainc.co.za, date 2021.11.06, deposit paid 252 Rand 40 from previous overpayment.
Just to reiterate, that date there specifically refers to 6th of November 2021.
That is correct, my Lord.
If we then may turn to Exhibit 14.2. If we may also read that particular description into record.
Says urgent typing administration fee 1, unit is UN, then it has 200.40, net price 200.00. Urgent typing, quantity 33.00, also PG, I assume it's pages. Unit price 48.0040, amount of 1,584 Rand and 0 cents. Also indicated Victor at vnainc.co.za, telephone 083-605-9925, date 2021.11.02, deposit paid 2,304 Rand on the 9th of the 12th, 2021, overpaid 252 Rand and 40 cents.
And that specific date, to reiterate, 02/11/2021.
That is correct.
If we also look at the transcripts at the bottom, there's also a date attached to the reference number. What is the date on the transcripts?
Date on the transcript is 2021/11/22.
We'll address that further. However, my lord, if I may hand up Exhibit 14.3, being the answering affidavit in the High Court sitting. You see the same, General?
I do.
If I may request of you to turn to, my apologies, my lord, if this may be admitted as 14.3. And this is with regards to case number 45/2021, the State and Ilese Khobela Magashule. If I may request you to turn to page 11 of the affidavit before you and read paragraph 40 into record.
Insofar as the applicant takes issue with the transcripts of the audio recording of Ms. Cholota's interview with the Hawks in Washington, D.C., this audio recording was only leaked via the media on or about 28 November 2021, which is after my application was brought.
And here we have a date that was allegedly leaked into the media on the 28th of November.
My lord, my apologies. Could I just ascertain from the state, are we still dealing with the jurisdiction of this court over accused number 17? I just wish to question the relevance of media leaking and all of that, particularly in light of last week when Mr. My learned senior Hodis's questioning regarding media and leaking was objected to by the state. Just to understand if this is at all still relevant to accused number 17.
Yes, could you just explain?
Indeed, so quite easily, my lord. If we look at this, this refers back to the transcripts which have been utilized throughout the proceedings, which had been alleged that they were leaked by the state on the 28th of November. This is showing that it is impossible due to the dates. It is very relevant to the jurisdiction, as these were the versions that had been put to the witness before court previously, which we could only confirm thereafter due to the fact that he was under cross-examination at the time, and we needed to investigate as officials of the court to ensure that all facts are placed before this honourable court.
Be that as it may, my lord, if my memory serves me correctly, it was the state via Advocate Dineshan that had no problem admitting this transcript before this court, which was the basis upon which Captain Khalid was questioned, and it was accepted as true and correct, if I recall the witness's testimony. And so if we're still disputing or debating the authenticity or the validity or the admissibility of the transcripts, then that ship has long sailed. And so again, my question remains, is this at all relevant to the jurisdiction point on the trial within the trial?
My lord, it is very much relevant. However, this is, as indicated by my senior in the matter, that it was also qualified with regards to what even this witnesses before court indicated, that there are gaps to the transcripts. This is purely due to the allegations made of prosecutorial misconduct as part of the plea that had been raised on behalf of accused number 17, that does need to, because it has been incorporated into the particular matter beforehand, that we do need to deal with the same, my lord. It is incredibly relevant. However, this is where we are taking it, and we are not taking it any further. We just need to place this on record.
Yes, so you are merely placing it on the record what we said in paragraph 40 of 14.3.
Indeed, so, my lord, and drawing the court's attention to the specific dates, owing to the fact that prosecutorial misconduct in this particular instance is most certainly not a viable option.
My Lord, in that regard, if I might say, the right to cross-examine is reserved. I don't want to reveal our version as to the dates for both on the cross-examination. But to make these submissions are uncalled for because it doesn't flow as my learned friend wants it to, or tries to indicate that it does, but that will be the subject of cross-examination.
Yes, thank you. But you may then proceed with
Thank you, my lord.
with
Thank you, my lord. General Gerber, we had then ended it with regards to the fact that this specific date spoke to the 28th of November 2021. Do you see that same?
That is correct.
And from what we can glean from the transcripts themselves, that speaks to a date of the 22nd of November 2021.
6th of November and 2
The actual transcripts, not the invoice.
other transcripts.
Exhibit 11, my apologies.
That's it.
Even that's not correct, my Lord. It's not. If one has regard to Exhibit 11, my Lord, which is the RA1, it doesn't have that date, my Lord. It refers to the date of 22 October 2021, which we established through the testimony of Captain Carlett was actually the 22nd of November 2021. If this witness is given that date as well, of September, I believe that's 2209. That is captured incorrectly, and Captain Carlett did testify to that effect as well.
Yes, but I think Ms. McPherson is referring to the date on which the transcript was made.
Yes, my Lord, that will still be the subject of cross-examination, as I've said, my Lord. The dates aren't correct, or what they surmise, as we understand them.
My Lord, with all due respect, we are not alleging the 22nd of September or the 22nd of October for a purposeful reason. If we look at the referencing number at the bottom of Exhibit 11, there is a date there that refers to the 22nd of November 2021. State is by no means bringing incorrect dates before the court.
Now, my Lord, if you have regard to RA1, which is Exhibit 11, it says that it was completed in the last page, my Lord, on the 14th of December 2021. Which is consistent, my Lord, with paragraph 40, what my learned friend has stated, has referred this court to. It doesn't show any contradiction as per the testimony, but we'll leave that, as I said, for cross-examination, because the dates do tie up, if one has regard to those dates and others that will become the subject of cross-examination.
My Lord, I believe we can leave that for cross-examination as there was nothing further with regards to objection. However, simply to note, if we do look at the transcriptions, we can identify the 22nd of November 2021, which is indicated at the bottom of each page starting from page 1 of the transcribed records.
But doesn't that refer to the date of the interview?
No, my Lord. With due respect, my Lord, it clearly indicates, even on the final page, that the date held indicated there 22nd of October 2021. However, as correctly pointed out by my learned colleague, Hodis, that it was in fact corrected, that it was during September. However, the recordings themselves indicated date held 22nd of October. However, I believe that that is not in dispute, that the interview itself did take place on the 22nd of 09, 2021, being 22nd September 2021.
Lord, could we just get clarity? Would this be the date at the bottom of each page? The long number that starts with DSI 33467?
Indeed, sir.
That is the date? Is that what is that the... I'm just not understanding the date.
My Lord,
My Lord, I think it's common cause, perhaps I can be of assistance. Your Lordship will see, if one has regard to Exhibit 14.2, that there's an invoice number, DSR 34676,186. Your Lordship will see that reference, that DSR reference. I know it's confusing because of DSR and the acronym that's attributable to the Hawks as well. That appears, my Lord, at the foot of every page of Exhibit 11. But what my learned friend is advised to have regard to, my lord, is if one looks at exhibits 14.1 and 14.2, next to the invoice numbers, where one can see that they're different jobs, there's a date given, and 14.2 is the 13th of December, and 14.1 is the 14th of December. So she's put them in reverse order with respect. The correct dates of the invoices are reflected there, as you will to see.
Indeed, so my lord, which was also indicated that it was not done in error, it was done intentionally due to the fact that the very invoice that my learned colleague is referring to refers to the Muradi Cholota interview by Hawks and FBI. However, my lord, if we can perhaps move this forward, as we are now entering into an internal argument which is not progressing us any further.
My lord, my sincerest apologies. I'm going to have to cross-examine this witness, and I just would like clarity on which date is indicative of the 11th or the 22nd of November. It's not an internal argument. It's simply seeking clarity, my lord, because nowhere on the transcript do I see 22nd of November. It's only a question on my part. And so I just would like clarity on that, because at the end of that transcript, we see a date at the bottom, 2021-12-14, and then there's also a date held on the same page, 2021-10-22, and then on the first page, 2021-10-22. My simple question, my lord, is where is November? That's my only question, as I am writing the answers of the witness.
Yes,
My lord,
can we conclude this?
Indeed, so my lord.
This argument.
Quite briefly, indeed, so my lord, the witness before court, when I inquired of him to indicate the specific date, it was with reference to the bottom of the transcriptions, where there's a reference number, also inclusive of the case number being 55.2020, under scroll 2021.11.22. It is on each and every page from page 1 of the transcripts, my lord.
Please, now that date of 22/11/21, is that the date of the interview?
No, my lord.
What is it then?
The correct date of the interview is the 22nd of September 2021.
Now, what is this 22/11?
Indeed, sir, my lord, that is where it will be taken further. However, we are just placing the specific dates on record in light of what 14.3 indicated, that it had been exposed or leaked to the media on the 28th of November, with the 22nd happening first and thereafter only the 28th, which does not make logical sense. As well as
But all these things got any bearing on the question whether this court has got jurisdiction to hear case number 17?
my lord, it does, in that this had been questioned of the previous witness with regards to the specific recordings, and the fact that it had brought forward with the jurisdiction also prosecutorial misconduct, and this is answering that leg of the jurisdictional aspect, because this again was put up to the previous witness indicating about the recordings, and this witness is finalizing the matter that it is not the state's recordings, and that we have before us with regards to Exhibit 11 that was very graciously handed in by my learned colleague.
What is really relevant is we know now it's not the state recording. This recording was apparently made by Ms. Cholota herself.
As a court
And
reason.
all parties concerned are evident that this transcript is a true reflection of what transpired at the interview, except for some things that was omitted. Isn't that all that is really relevant?
My lord, up until this point, it wasn't that all the parties had been at Eden, that it was in fact May Cholota that had taken the recordings, my lord. If that is the inference that we can draw, and my learned colleagues are happy for that, then definitely, my lord, state will leave this point right here.
Well, this is what General Gerber has testified.
Indeed, sir, my lord.
And it's open for Ms. Cholota's legal representative, Advocate Makubela, to prosecute him if he places that in dispute.
As a court, please, my lord.
Please, can we then move on?
Indeed, sir, my lord. We can put this to bed, depending on obviously what then is elicited during cross-examination, if we may reserve the right to potentially revert back to this, depending on what transpires during cross-examination. Thank you, my lord. General Khaber, further to this, it had been indicated that there had been a degradation of Mayor Cholota, accused person number 17's rights during these interviews, and that she was exposed to mental torture. What can you say about that?
My lord, myself, I totally deny that. From my side and from the lead investigator, Captain Carlitz, we were actually very aware of ensuring that everything is done according to her rights. We bent over backwards to accommodate her in every request, every way she was treated, the way in which we questioned her, the way in which we posed questions. Everything was done in an amicable manner. If I also go through the transcriptions, that would also verify and confirm the way that we had treated Mayor Cholota all along during the interview.
The actual interview of the 22nd of September 2021, what was your role there?
I was just basically an observer, and then as questions were posed to Mayor Cholota, most of my questions were either clarity-seeking questions or trying to assist to let her understand the questions in a more simpler manner so that she could then answer in terms of a better understanding of the question where it seemed that she may not understand the question.
It is also further intimated that there was an intimidation factor with regards to this interview due to the FBI being involved. What would your response be to that?
No, that is absolutely denied. In actual fact, I think it would have given her more comfort as the person in the room was a female. And that is why she was present as well, that it is not two men and one female sitting in an interview, and it would have given her, we assumed, that little bit of comfort to know that there's another female person in the room. She did not partake in any processes, any questioning at all.
When you say she did not partake, who you're referring to?
That is FBI agent Denise Bean.
It has also been intimated before the court that your entire trip to the United States of America was in an attempt to either have Mayor Cholota implicate herself or implicate accused number 13. What is your response to that?
No, Your Worship. The intent of the trip was to obtain an affidavit from Mayor Cholota as a state witness. Obviously, we had, or Captain Carlitz had prepared a file of questions and of documentary evidence which we would have used in our interview with Mayor Cholota. So the sole purpose was to obtain a witness statement and to use Mayor Cholota, depending on what is written in the statement, as a state witness in the subsequent trial.
When you say that you would have used this particular file in the interview, why using those words? Why would have used?
because the interview never progressed to that point where we could physically show her documents and elicit responses from that in terms of explaining those specific, and if I say that, I refer to emails that Captain Carlos had prepared to present to Cholota.
In what way do you mean that the interview never progressed to that level?
Well, we started off in the general trance, introducing ourselves, trying to explain, making her comfortable, etc. And then we started, or Captain Carlet started posing questions, which I then also posed questions to her in terms of clarifying certain issues. And the responses that we received from Cholota in terms of her answers was not such that we could progress to eventually get to the point where we can provide her evidence to say, what is your response on this?
And you had earlier indicated that this particular interview had come to an end with you further giving her a warning with regard to legal representation.
Yes, that was around about lunchtime when the interview ended, as she indicated that she had to go to college still the afternoon. So once again there we also accommodated her request to us. Yes.
What then transpired between yourself and Captain Carlitz with regards to after this interview was concluded?
Well, after the interview, we obviously discussed the matter, and it was an agreement that we are not getting satisfactory answers on our questions that we posed to her. Even elementary questions were not answered. So it was clear to us that she was not willing to work with us in terms of supplying us a witness statement. We then agreed that we would speak to Advocate Denason and get his view on the matter. We did subsequently give him a call, and we had a discussion and explained to him what transpired during the course of the day and the witness's hostility, if I can use that word towards us. We then also discussed that the following day we would again try and see in terms of treating her as a witness, but depending on what transpired, if this trend was continuing, we would then obviously make a decision and review our position as using her as a state witness.
The day of the 23rd of September then dawned. What transpired then?
Well, we picked Ms. Cholota up from the train station in the morning. We proceeded to the South African Embassy. We had to hand in all our cell phones, which were handed in and placed in secure lockage. We then were taken to a room by I think it's the liaison officer at the embassy, where we then were given a room where we once again continued with our interview. The process that transpired was not much different from the first day, and it was clear that Cholota was not going to give us a statement as a state witness.
What then transpired?
It was then decided by myself and Captain Carlos that henceforth we would then view her as a suspect in the matter, Captain Carlitz then proceeded to take a warning statement from Cholota.
At that point, what was your role?
I was just an observer at that point. Captain Carlitz then took her through the document, which is a SAPS document that contains a warning statement, which was developed in terms of the Constitution, so that all rights of people are adequately explained and given to the suspect. At some stage, Cholota wanted to consult a legal representative in terms of to explain what this document was about and what was the purpose of this document. I then proceeded to the liaison officer and requested him to see if he can find or if there were any legal representatives at the embassy that may be able to assist in explaining this process to Cholota. There was none available, and I indicated such to her, and we continued with the warning statement. The statement was then finalized, and we then left the embassy.
General, the previous evening of the 22nd, or the afternoon, my apologies, you had provided or Captain Carlitz had provided the advice to perhaps seek legal representation. Was this issue addressed on the morning of the 23rd of September with her?
If I recall correctly, she was asked whether she did consult with a legal practitioner, and she indicated that she had not.
You indicated that the warning statement itself was finalized. Was there any actual statement given by Mayor Cholota to both yourself and Captain Carlitz?
No, there was no statement obtained.
It was also questioned of Captain Carlitz with regards to the procedure that the warning statement was still continued with to finalize even after you weren't able to source legal representation. Can you explain that process?
Yes, that is correct. There was no further questions asked to her, no answers requested from her in terms of anything relating to the matter. It was merely a case of, do you want to make a statement, yes or no? She indicated no, she does not want to make a statement, and that she would consult a legal representative. And if I'm correct, she indicated that she would provide a statement at a later stage, and that was all that was contained in her statement.
Would you indicate that your treatment of Mayor Cholota as both a witness as well as when she was a suspect was different in any other way you've treated other witnesses and suspects?
No, Your Worship. No, my Lord. Not at all. She was treated throughout the process. We treated her the same, even when it was clear to us that she was not willing to cooperate with us. Even taking of the warning statement was also done in a fashion that none of her rights were violated. we were obviously, again, as I say, treated her extremely well during this whole process.
General, much was made of the fact that questions were posed to Mayor Cholota with regards to specifically naming accused number 13, which she did not do, and that is why you had chosen to make her a suspect.
No, Your Worship, I disagree with that. The purpose was to get a statement, and obviously one has to ask questions which you elicit an answer from. Based on the answer that you receive, you would then pose a next question. So when it was said to us, and I specifically can remember the office of the Premier, even myself and on several occasions tried to explain to her, but an office cannot give you an instruction. It must be someone, a person must give you that instruction. So even if she provided the name of, I think there's a Miss Janet Kay that works at the Premier's office, that would be written down in the statement, and that would be something that we would follow up in terms of coming back to South Africa and approaching then whoever was named in that specific statement as being part of the process. So at no stage was it specifically aimed to implicate Mr. Magashule in this matter. There is enough evidence in the case docket at that stage which had already implicated Mr. Magashule. So it was basically a question of getting her statement as a witness to then corroborate what we already had as evidence, and that was not forthcoming. But at no stage was she pressed to come forward and say, Mr. Magashule. And that was not my view how it took place.
The exhibit bundle before you also contains Exhibit R, Annexure R, my apologies. And this refers specifically to a statement made by Mayor Cholota with regard to the Zondo Commission. Do you see the same?
I see it.
It was also questioned as to the fact that through this particular statement that it was completely exculpatory towards both Mayor Cholota as well as accused number 13, Mr. Magashule.
I have not seen the statement, so I do not know what the contents thereof is, my lord.
My lord, I see it is now already 11:15. If perhaps we can just stand down, that this witness may just make himself aware of this particular affidavit, and that we then can proceed and finalize after tea.
My lord, before we adjourn, if I may, I need to, before the Lordship makes the ruling, I see the journal, the witness has been referring to a pink notebook to refresh his memory. We haven't been given access to that document at all. Access to that document, my lord, before your Lordship adjourns, that you can see it during the adjournment.
My lord, with pleasure. There's written 2209 September, and that's all that's written in the book. But you can make copies if you'd like to.
Nothing else?
Nothing else in the book.
There's no
It is for me to make notes if a question is asked that I can write just for my own notes here. But there's nothing in the diary. It's completely...
You're not refreshing your memory from
Not at all, your wish, my lord. Not at all.
You will have a problem if there's nothing in that.
I think I would, sir.
If we may see it, my lord, I do appreciate it.
You want to see that?
Yes, my lord. During the adjournment, my lord, there's no... Thank you.
Please, I just might have it back. Maybe write something in, my lord, that
Pleasure.
should not be there.
Pleasure.
He's not going to say this long period. You read through that. According to our agenda, 11:30.
All right.
That's my personal things, mate. Please.